Why is your head in your hand, Daymond? Because AI is going to turn this country into a civil war.
The guest today, who is Daymond John. He is the founder of Fubo, which has done $6 billion in sales. He also is one of the most beloved members of Shark Tank, from somebody who had nothing to somebody who became one of the most successful CEOs of our time.
There's nothing new in this world. It's a new way to present it. The top companies in Shark Tank history, socks and a sponge.
So would you rather be hungry or rich as a young person?
Hungry. It's all about understanding that you actually can do it. Stop getting all those things in your head. You need money to make money. I have to have an education. No, you don't. Know your why. If you're waking up every day because you're solving a problem for a person, you're bringing them joy, and you love it, then you can do that.
Welcome back to the Big Deal podcast. I'm Codie Sanchez. The studio looks a little different today, and that's because I am in San Antonio about to go on a stage in front of thousands of people. But right after the guest today, who is Daymond John. He shares all the lessons learned from investing, from building big businesses, and from hustling, from somebody who had nothing to somebody who became one of the most successful CEOs of our time in a category nobody had ever done it quite like him before. I can't wait for you guys to hear this episode. He's a riot, and I took a lot of notes. Your career is incredible. You've been on Shark Tank, obviously. You've started a bunch of companies. You've invested in even more. You're on the internet. You got millions of followers. You speak all over the place. You get standing ovations. But I actually don't think very many people know that you invested in the most successful company that Shark Tank has seen thus far, Bombas, right?
Well, I tell everybody whenever I can that I'm the lead shark with the most successful investment in history, Shark Tank history, on all the Shark Tanks that exist around the world.
I mean, who would have thought it was a sock company too? I had to actually Google the valuation.
Isn't that a boring company when you think about it?
Yeah, $3.65 billion valuation.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wanted to start there with just, what did you see? Because you were the only one that did it. Everybody else passed.
I wish I could say that I was a visionary on these type of things. I wasn't. I saw great founders that cared about what they were doing. And I went on to Shark Tank because when they gave me the option, I would tell people it was 07, 08. I had 10 clothing companies and 8 of them were dead because nobody's buying clothing when they can't pay their mortgage. So I went on to diversify my portfolio and not get only pitched clothing company because I was known as the clothing company guy. So the last thing that I wanted to buy was clothing. I invested in these guys, but I found that I had always had this theory that in business you have to make it first, then you should master your craft, and then you can matter. I can't help anybody else if I can't help myself. These guys flipped at me on the head and said, no, D, you can make it and you can matter at the same time, because when we're selling a pair of socks, we're giving a pair away to those in the homeless community because that's the #1 requested clothing item. And what they did was show people that a kid and a mom and anybody who's buying today want to know not only what did you do for me, but what did you do for somebody else. So a kid will sit across a table from a parent and say, hey, you invested the office at the end of the year. I invested 10 times this year. Every time I bought this, I cleaned up the ocean. Every time I bought this, I stopped human trafficking. And by the way, I bought socks for myself, and for my friends' birthdays, I bought them socks because they're helping people. And it just changed my whole way of thinking.
That's fascinating. I think it's hard to tell if a founder is worth investing in or to know that a founder is going to be a winner or not. We invest in a ton of companies and I still obviously get it wrong too. What characteristics made you go, no, these guys are different?
Humble, did their research, did their homework, use what I call the power of broke. The founders that believe that they need a ton of money, that's not the founder I want, because money's going to highlight your weaknesses. If you can't get the same customers with $200, then you ain't going to get them with $2 million, right? You're just going to get one customer at $200 and that amount at $2 million. So what I found was that what I loved about David and Randy, the founders, is he basically said, here's how I started the company. I had 50,000 people in my database that somehow had gotten an email somewhere or another from me in my Gmail or whatever the case is. I hit all 50,000. Hey, The homeless community needs socks, and I'm thinking about coming out with a sock company after the Tom's model. Bah, 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 bah. What do you think? 50% of them said, you're spamming me. Who the hell are you? Leave me alone. Another 50% kind of said, I'm interested. Send me more information. And 5 or 6 people said, hey, a-hole, I'm your ex-girlfriend. Why the hell are you spamming me about your stupid ass socks? Whatever the case may be, but real true entrepreneurs and founders, they're like Steve Jobs. They're the ultimate tweakers, not twerking, tweakers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember that. I think I did. I probably broke like a few GDPR email laws when I started my first company. I
For
was like,
sure.
any person I met was on that list. They were getting spammed. And I think you did some of that same stuff. Like, to go way, way back when you started FUBU, your stories are pretty incredible about some of the hacky things you did in the beginning. Like stuff that now I think kids who are more risk averse, like increasingly they don't do as crazy of things. There's a lot of online interaction, probably things that, you did. People think, oh, I would never do that now. Like, what were some of the craziest unhinged hacks you did to start?
Well, remember when I started food with you? Now I sound like your grandfather. I ain't had no shoes. When I started food with you, there was no internet. And there was barely cell phone. I had to stand outside the Apollo Theater after those people got out in Harlem after watching the comedy show, The Apollo. And my customer feedback was what they told me about my shirts and my mother. I had to come home like this. Yo, we got to make the shirts. We got to change the blue on that. So, and then when I sold you a shirt, there was no internet. I had to find you the next day. I had to go to your house. So other things that I hacked, I use common sense. I use simple things. I happen to know a lot of artists, video artists, and music artists and various other things. I knew their cousins, their brothers, their uncles. I would know where they would shoot videos. I took 10 shirts for 2 years, the same 10. I'd go to every video set I could. I went to 40 video sets. I got kicked off of 18 of them. But the 22 that I got on, I would put it on an artist, and he'd shoot the video, and I'd take it back. Put another artist, take it back. I remember I didn't have any money to advertise, but I remember seeing all those nasty storm gates outside the store they pulled down. I go to every place I can. I go, hey, if you can let me paint a beautiful white sign of this company that I'm working with on the gates. Now, by the way, you have profanity on there and graffiti on there. If I put a beautiful white sign on there, when those gates are down, the kids are going to see it. When you pull those gates up, because you're supporting a local company, they're going to want to come and support you. I spray painted 300 gates from New York to New Jersey, authorized FUBU dealer. I didn't care that you were selling Chinese food. You were an authorized FUBU dealer. Later on, when Nielsen ratings, you remember that Nielsen rating? I mean, there's a big company called Nielsen that Q and various other things. They were like, when I started making money, FUBU had his first $1 million to spend. And that's today is like $10 million. They said, if you want to put on MTV, 30-second commercial, $6,000, because here's how many people watch this. BET, 30-second commercial, $500. Okay, so you would think that I want to buy for more people. Common sense. Let me see, BET. Last time I went to the projects, there was no Nielsen rating box, and all the cable was hooked up to some illegal line standing out there, and there was 15 million people sitting around one TV. I'm going to own BET for $1 million because it was just common sense.
Maybe common sense for you, but it does seem like your brain just kind of works differently. Like you looked at this market and said, no, I don't want the ego play of MTV. I'm going to actually go with where it converts. Like, I want to make money on this. I don't want to just be a big name.
I think that's being dyslexic. I always say 8 of the 12 sharks are dyslexic. And I think that it's the fact that I didn't know if I read anything, if I was going to read it accurately, and that I'd have to go out and do it. And I think common sense is common sense. But people try... I think it was my mother always said to me, Daymond, we're driving down the street, and she said, we live by JFK, and I saw planes, Empire State Building, all this stuff, and I said, how do men and women build these massive machines, Mom? She said, what are you talking about? Everything that's created in this world, the car we're in, the street we're driving, it started with one person with one idea that took one action. Okay, Mom, well, everybody's rich. No, son, 65% of Forbes' wealthiest 1,000 people are self-made men and women. They're not rich. Or somebody sitting here saying you need money to make money. Well, if you need money to make money, the Fords, the Carnegies, and the Mellons, they've done such great things for this country. The Rockefellers. Their kids have money, but their foundation do great stuff. But why don't they own the Teslas and the Facebooks and the Instagram of this world? Why? Because the first generation makes it, the second enjoys it, and third will destroy it. So it's all about understanding that you actually can do it. Stop getting all those things in your head. You need money to make money. I have to have an education. No, you don't. You don't need any of that stuff. You need to sit and listen to stuff like this and apply these simple rules every single day.
So would you rather be hungry or rich as a young person?
Hungry, because rich doesn't mean anything. Rich. There is no ultimate rich, right? A lot of people think, well, I'm rich. What is rich? If Jeff Bezos woke up with Mark Cuban's money, he would jump out the window. And if Elon Musk woke up with Jeff Bezos' money, he'd jump out the window. There is no, what is rich? Well, what, some working stiff who's working, all day in an office, and on his deathbed or her deathbed, they're looking at a whole bunch of people who sucked them dry and said, man, I should have lived a better life.
You have kids,
I have
obviously. How do you make sure that they don't turn into that second or third generation that loses it all?
Because I'm not leaving them anything. I put it in my kids' head ever since I was young that they were young, that they were not going to get anything, the same as Buffett and everybody else has done. So what does that do? I have two little girls. They're little anymore. But it makes that, first of all, it stops all the scumbags around going, let me try to become part of their life because they're going to get something. So first of all, you stop 50% of the scumbags. They also create in their head, and it's true, the narration of, I don't need his money. Not only do they not need my money, they don't even want to be part of anything I'm doing because they want to be independent people. Now, my two oldest girls, the internet wasn't around and social media wasn't around, so they didn't have a camera on them all the time. And the only time I ever interviewed, which was my potential biggest break ever, it was when Oprah's producer said, we want to come into your home and see your family. And I never wanted my girls to be under the pressure of being Daymond John's daughter. And they're all for being great human beings. And I think that is one thing. I think other wealthy kids that I know have said sports has been great because a kid don't care who your mommy and daddy is when they want to hit you in the chin for a ball. And now today, my youngest one, that's going to be a different challenge. It's a different day and age right now.
Yeah, that's the hard part. I think about that a lot. I didn't grow up with anything. And so when my husband and I hopefully are blessed enough to have kids, it's just a totally different equation. Like if you fly private, do they have to fly commercial? Like, how do you do that?
That's it. All of this is a challenge. Liz Clayman said to me one day that she grew up in wealth, and her father said, the only thing I can't give you is adversity. And it's very, very hard. So I fly private some of the time. I don't fly all the time. And I remember when my daughter, I usually fly. When I'm with my family, I need to be someplace in time. By the way, I want to tell the rest of the world, flying private is a waste of time. Don't do it for other people's reasons. Man, that JetBlue lay down is fantastic. If I go to California, New York, round trip is $100,000 privately. I got to go to Teterboro. I get there probably about 2 hours earlier than you. If I want to lay on the plane, well, I got to go in the back and kind of by the bathroom area. I got to see if I'm going to get a stewardess for the plane or not. It's $100,000. I save the only thing I'll do is save 2 hours. For those 2 hours, if I go commercial, I get paid $96,000 for those 2 hours, right? That I didn't get there on time with you. You know what I can do with that $96,000? And the plane, not the worst part about the plane is I'm a little bit of a tree hugger. I don't want to pollute the world for this stupid little plane. But those light jets, the light or mids, they can't take the wind like those big ones. But the worst part about the plane? It's like getting a free pet. Now you got to get shots of the little thing running around here. You got to get diapers, and you got to clean up this rug where it's scooched on the carpet. You got the brown stain looking like planes with chocolate wheels are landing on your carpet. It's having the plane. Your friends are going to want to go on it, and then you're going to go to Vegas and spend $200,000 on a Tuesday because you got a plane. Don't get any planes. That's why you see athletes in lotto winners are bankrupt 3 years after leaving the league or winning the lotto, because they don't know how to use the tool of financial intelligence because we got to get a plane. I made those mistakes.
Yeah, I think it's really smart. And it's these days, I think people want to look rich, not be rich. And what a dumb move, you know? Way better.
It is. But, we're all human. What's your why? Somebody said, well, Daymond, you're famous. How many people are going to see you on the plane? I don't know. I could wear a mask now. A hot 20 people are going to see me. Is my ego that big that I need to pay $96,000 so 20 people don't see me?
Yeah. Well, plus, like, why is it a bad thing? Well, I mean, Mario Lopez is like one of my favorite longtime actors, and he flies Southwest with his kid. And I think that is so fucking cool.
Barbara, unless somebody's paying for her, she'll fly coach. Daniel Lubitsky got a lot of money. He will never get on a plane with his kids unless he gets on a plane coach.
I'm a little bit of a pain in the ass. I want to be first class.
I'm not
at
sleeping.
least.
I'm not
I
going
wanna
coach.
be a
No, I was
I'll
acting all cool
say
just
it.
now. You know what? I started to get claustrophobic. I've traveled 250 days a year. You know what I mean? I'm not, listen, who was it? Bill Gates rode the train up until they said you just have to stop riding the train due to your, safety. I'm a New Yorker. I'm used to hopping in cabs, trains, so it's just, I don't do it for the wrong reasons. Do it for the right reason. If the check is bigger than that plane ride and for the right reason and time constraint, yes. And if you're family,
Yeah, I think that's a good lesson for life in general. Like, if you can't really cash the check for a bigger reason, probably don't do it. I'm kind of curious. So, you've been in clothing forever since FUBU and invest in a ton of other clothing companies. Are there brands today that you're like, God, this one's underrated? Like, these
This
are
one,
sleepers.
they're getting it right.
Yeah.
I like a company called Actively Black. They're the new version of FUBU to me, where they had the license for like Marvel, they had the license for Tupac, so they had Black Panther and stuff like that.
That's smart.
Nike still gets it right in a sense, and I'll just say a reason why. They'll do a custom shoe for one person. You'll say a $30 billion company doing a custom shoe for one person. But what they're doing is they're putting that algorithm together of all those people that ordered these type of custom shoes with the same color, the size, the fit, and you're actually creating the line for them for the following year. I think Under Armour gets it right. They were able to successfully convert from shoes to now hunting apparel and various other things. I mean, I like the Hokas because, I'm 5'7.5", and when I wear Hokas, I'm 5'9". I can finally look at my wife in the face. Yo, I'm saying, don't talk to me like that, baby. Louis Vuitton is the largest company in the world. They get it. They get it right. They get it right for the right reasons. I don't want to go into how there's so many ways that they get it right. Hermes. I was watching the founder of Hermes speak one day on a 60-minute interview, and he said, and I don't know if I want to say it the right way, but he said, expensive is something you regret, but luxury is something that you never you don't regret. Now I'm bastardizing the way he said it, but he basically said, expensive is like, yo, look at this watch, and it's cool, but it's not that Rolex that you invested in. And in Hermes bag, he showed the process it took for one bag. Now, my wife has a bunch of Birkins, and she always says to me, honey, these are like investments. You know how much they appreciate. So I usually go to her and say, well, when are we going to sell all these investments? They have appreciated a lot. And then I'm sleeping on the couch that night.
It doesn't work out.
But I think she's selling it for when I'm in the dirt.
Exactly.
And then, she's cool.
That's her 401k female version.
Getting pretty depressed.
The richest people in the world didn't just build, they bought. They didn't come from riches. They used other people's money and a ridiculous amount of sweat. People will tell you you can't. Yet didn't you know there isn't a multi-billion-dollar business out there that didn't do some type of acquisition? Amazon, 110 companies bought. Facebook, 96. The Sage of Omaha himself started buying a gumball route. They didn't listen to those who said they couldn't. They found aging owners, made connections, took risks, repeated. Today, the hardest thing to do isn't buy a company. It's start and keep a profitable business. Around here, we don't hope and pray for profits. We buy them. Real businesses, 56,000 of them, real profits, custom deal box so you can swipe left and right at your pleasure, maps find businesses close to you, off-market deals where no one else is even looking. This is how you become an owner. Well, I was curious because, it seems like there are some legacy brands that are resurging, like Abercrombie and Fitch. I never thought I'd see a day where that was cool again. And now one of the most successful clothing brands by market cap, huge growth numbers. Like, let's say you got your hands on a legacy brand like Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein, something like that. What would you do to turn around an old school company?
Well, I have one. It's called FUBU.
That's true.
And you have a good point. It's all about the execution, right? So every brand will get rediscovered. Fashion, pretty simple, every 10 years. There are one that will stand the test of time: Tom Ford, Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Hermes. But even my brand, FUBU, I think it was a good question. Like I got another brand, Codie, that I put out too. But I personally don't have the time to run FUBU the way it should be. It's an execution. And my partners and I, we never sold the brand because we love what it stands for, but we still do a good amount of business. But could I make it probably $1 billion brand again? Yes, I could. It would be a whole different model. It would be right now, I would have to go the way the world is. FUBU, when it first started, it was a surprise to see an African-American owned brand that was kind of like the first hashtag of clothing that people of all colors loved. So for a store to carry it, it showed we believe in with this culture. Today, if I were to, and we have suits and we're good in Philippines and other stuff, but today, if I were to relaunch it today, what is FUBU? For us, by us. What do people want to do now? They want independence. So I'd probably have one male, one female in every college, and one male, one female in every high school. They would get on credit. They would get $1,000 worth of FUBU for $500 worth of credit. I'd bank it by one of the banks, J.P. Morgan Chase or whatever. And they would sell the clothing and they would make $500 each allotment. And when they get to a certain point, they would get digital assets, maybe your podcast, maybe social media, maybe AI, maybe whatnot, Amazon, whatever the case is. And then when they time out of that school, they would bring somebody else in, very much like the Avon model. And that's what I would do, because it would be then FUBU would be empowering us here while we sell to our community. That's what I would do with that brand.
That's
But I
so
just don't have the
interesting.
time.
Yeah, you would basically make it a streetwear brand again. It's not going to be you on the street knocking on doors, but you're just going to proliferate yourself.
Right, and instead of the FUBU guys being the FUBU guys, I would have contests on who's the new FUBU guys and FUBU girls, and you would be the FUBU guy and FUBU girl in your community in Detroit or Colorado or this school or that school for that year. And you would create your own user-generated content, and we would sanction and put it on the site of saying, if you're in this city, this is who you can go to get the product, whether online or here. But again, all this stuff is really easy to talk about.
Yeah.
Execution is where it's at, because I have my own ideas. And you see, I don't have time to execute them.
What do any other clothing companies do that? Like, I've never heard of somebody having like a Avon sort of style model.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure that, like, I know my boy who used to own Young and Reckless, but he owns something called, I forgot the jean company. What he would do is put in a box, a guy would pay $50 for it, 5-4 denim, I think, and a man would get $100 worth of clothing for $50 a month in this box. And why was that a good model? Well, in the clothing business, the way the retail works, if I made it for 25, I sell it to Macy's for 50 and they sell it for 100. The clothing company's still making the $25 it was in, put it in the box. However, here's the thing about especially guys, but anybody. If I know now that I got 100,000 guys, well, I know how many 34s I need, how many 36s I need, how many 38s, all the sizes. I got a lower form of return. Women, it's a little different, because a woman, when she first buys a brand, if you sell her something, she's gonna buy 2 sizes because she doesn't know if she's a 10 or she doesn't know if she's a 12. She doesn't know what and the jeans fit a little different. But I'm gonna have a lower amount of returns. I'm gonna know who the customer is. And you know what they started doing after that? They started saying, hey, Gillette, you want to put your new razor in all the boxes? You give me $1 million. So there's different ways to have these subscription slash tiered model.
So I know in our businesses, So right now we own a bunch of boring businesses. So I
Bunch
own
of
like
what?
boring
Yeah.
businesses like an HVAC, roofing, painting, window cleaning. And I know, for instance, in the painting business, we want to like get a toe in by you saying we'll paint some walls inside of the house. But what we really want to do is like paint the exterior of your house. We want to paint the whole thing. That's where we really make the money, are the big projects. And then we get like one house on a block. And if we get one house on the block, we know we do a door knocking strategy. So like we'll at least get 1 to 2 others on that block. So we're like maybe even lose money on the first house to get on the second or third. I was curious in clothing, like what items sell and they just make the most money? Like,
Oh, you're talking about the bread butter,
yeah.
the margin builders, as we call it.
Yeah.
Clothing makes almost zero money off of anything else besides jeans and t-shirts.
Why?
Well, because jeans and t-shirts are easy to make and people go through the t-shirts and stuff like that. I mean, Louis Vuitton, if you look at Louis Vuitton, I mean, when people leave, what do they really leave with? A belt, a wallet, or some kind of keychain, right? Those are margin builders, as we call them in the business. In the business, for the most part, almost 60% of all sales in clothing is black.
Wow.
20% is white. The rest is just sprinkled in between.
Interesting. This is a very dumb question, but I always wonder why. So if you go to like Chanel or Louis or whatever, you can buy a pair of shoes for like, I don't know, 600 to 800 bucks. But then if you want to buy a shirt, like at Chanel, it's like $4,000. Why are they that much harder to make? The shoes seem like they would be more expensive to me to make.
Well, it depends on what they're making in the Chanel shirt, right? What product they're making, and I mean, it could be cashmere, it could be a lot of other stuff, but the margin builder is going to be the simple black dress,
Interesting.
right? But the shoe itself is, once you make the shoe in the mold, you can replicate that mold various different ways. A shoe is actually hard to build. It's like almost like building a car, because what happens is in the shirt and stuff like that, it fits, it doesn't fit. But on a shoe, there's 130 pounds on that shoe. And the ER every single night in every single city is there with a woman who split her toes or her broke her ankles due to those shoes. So there's a lot of balance and a lot of stuff going on. But once you replicate that mold, you're going to put that same mold together with a different upper, different ways. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I never thought about that. It's always bothered me. I'm like, how come I could buy that for 600 bucks and that's 5,000?
Yeah, because that 5,000 one, they're only making, 20,000, or they're making 5,000 units of that, or 2,000 units globally, Chanel. And that shoe, they're making, 40,000, 50,000 units. So they're buying by bulk.
You're right. Okay, that explains it. I wanted to talk, obviously, a little bit about Shark Tank.
Yeah.
You've seen a ton of pitches, and I've had friends actually pitch you. I've had friends get money. Ooh, I don't know if I've had friends get money from you, but I've definitely had friends pitch you and pitch all the sharks. If you had to break it down formulaically, what are you like, this is a pitch that works and this is one that doesn't? What is a good way to pitch to get
The
money?
pitch that doesn't work for sure is the people that immediately come in and everything is hypothetical and they assume. They don't have a history of things and they go, the number one thing that you can say that I immediately check out, or I give you some kind of royalty offer like a Kevin O'Leary, that I go, this person's almost out of business, this is a $50 billion market, and if I only get 1%, I guarantee you every one of the sharks are almost out. Or Kevin O'Leary will give you a finance offer because he doesn't care if you do well or not. He just wants his money back, and he's taking a flyer on if he gets a percentage of the company down the road. The greatest pitches that I have seen, they're always a story. They're always very infomercial feeling, because what they're doing is they're introducing that a problem either exists that you know or exists that you don't know. They're talking about who they are and why they're qualifying that they're the person to solve the problem. They're giving you some kind of proof of concept, an essence on why. So it's like, hey, Hey, Cody. I'm Damon John. And you know what? For years, the hip hop community has had to buy their clothing from other designers that didn't care about them, that said, give me your money. I don't like you. But I've been a fan of hip hop for 10, 20 years, and I know everything about hip hop. And I'm going to create a clothing line called FUBU. There's no such thing called the internet, but if you're across the street and you see me, you know what I'm into because I'm FUBU. I am going to connect people through a community. And people in the past have had to, if they want to buy African American type of clothing, they had to do kente cloth clothing. Who wants to wear orange and green and red? I'm going to create blue jeans like a blue jean. This is the cowboy, the Levi's of cowboys. We are the Levi's of the urban kid. And it's going to be about 20% more, but it's going to be quality in it. And if you invest right now, I got superstars like LL Cool J ready to wear it.
I'm in.
So you're qualifying yourself, and telling the story.
Yeah. Now, what about, on Shark Tank? Obviously, it's a TV production. How much of it is actually like produced? Are there takes and they get to go again? And like, is there a fake component of it?
No. There's only one component of it that in case I'm talking and I'm saying I'm out and Barbara's just doing her normal rambling because she didn't take her medicine and the mics don't pick it up, we do a day where nobody's there and we say, and for that reason, I'm out. So you catch the audio of the actual clean I'm out. But there is nothing produced. Remember, this is our own money. And ABC and Mark Burnett and them, they don't want to get in the way of us spending, losing, or profiting off of money. So an average pitch is 1 hour long, maybe half an hour to an hour long, 16 cameras shooting it. So an hour pitch is 16 hours of footage for you to see 8 minutes. Takes us 6 to 9 months to close the deals. We close about 60% of the deals. The guy who's with me in the room today pitched on Shark Tank 13 years ago, some little company called Hanukkah Tree Topper. We ended up licensing a lot of the company out and doing well with it and been my head of my sales for 13 years after that. So it's real people, real businesses.
Fascinating. What percentage of deals like actually made you money?
Like what?
Made you money?
I don't even count what's made me money because if you really think about it, and Barbara's really good with her P&L. When you look at my staff, when you look at me traveling, when you look at the hours and time in it, I don't look at them. But I'm positive because of certain exits and shares that we've sold. I am positive, but it's almost like the venture community. I think 2 out of 10 is winners. I think we have 3 out of 10 because we have a baked-in commercial.
Yeah, 100%. You have the hardest part, which is distribution.
Yeah.
The hardest part wasn't creating T-shirts; those existed before. It was getting somebody to actually say yes and give you the cash.
Correct.
And so, we see this all day. I have this brilliant AI strategy, and we're gonna change the world. And I go, awesome. Who have you sold it to? And they go, well, nobody. But the second I get the money, what's gonna happen is I'm gonna sell it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
you guys get to sell immediately. I had a few friends that came on Shark Tank, and I'm sure you guys saw that. Did you see a lot of people come on Shark Tank that were like actually didn't want your money? They just wanted your distribution, so they gave you crazy fake offers.
They wanted the commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Plenty of people. There was a certain time when a lot of people did that. So what I do is pretty simple. After we do the deal, in a handshake, I walk over to them and I give them a piece of paper, very short one, and say, take it to your attorney. And it says on there something like, you're not going to publicly shop this deal for another year after you air. Totally up to them to sign, but if I see them hesitating, I know that they're looking for a commercial. I don't mind you looking for a commercial, I get it. However, there's a serious matter. The show was founded in 07, 08 when we went through a very hard time in this country. You're only going to have about 96 people that air. 1,000 people will see the producers and 40,000 people applied. If you have $2 million in the bank and you have your hat in your hand asking for money and you have you don't plan on closing a shark, you took that slot away from a family who risked everything, who their kids are not going to college. They're about to lose their house and they want a shark to desperately help them. And I think you're a selfish bastard for that. I think there's a lot of other places to pitch those ideas and nothing wrong with founders who have money. But that show is for the American public. And people don't understand you got $1 million in the bank. Not today. when people can't pay their mortgages. So that's why I do it. I have a problem with people who try to abuse the platform.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way, actually.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people think about Shark Tank not from that sort of like that deep, heartfelt portion of it. It's just like, cool company, give them
No,
cash, bye.
we love these people. These people are our partners. These people are people who are allowing us to invest in their dream. They're holding a space, and there's a fiduciary duty of investing in another person's dream.
I agree with that. You know, let's go to the other side of that, which is I've certainly lost a lot of money doing deals, and I like up to now, knock on wood. I don't know if I'll always be able to do that, but I have never lost money for other people, which is always like kind of the line that freaks me out, you know. And that's probably a bad thing in some ways. I should probably get more comfortable with losing.
No,
Some, no.
I can't sleep at night if I lose some money, and I lost money for probably about two guys,
Yeah.
and I still till today. I want to do it the right way. If I have another business that they can get in where they're going to make their money back, I'm going to make sure they're first up.
Yeah, yeah. The place where I regret investing the most was I invested some in the cannabis industry early on.
Okay.
And it's not that I regret cannabis itself. I think I regret the way that it's happened. And now I think the THC levels are like too high. And I think the way we're doing it could actually be bad for people's health.
Sure.
But I'm not a doctor. But I invested in the industry that really needed regulation to happen. And
Sure.
if deregulation didn't happen, it wasn't going to really change. And so I remember like one deal, we almost lost 12 million and then it got down to 1, you know, and we did a workout of the deal. But that was
Excellent.
fucking awful, you know, terrible 6-month period. But thank God we only lost $1 million. So it sounds like a lot. I was wondering, what do you think's the most amount of money you've ever lost on a deal?
Probably about 6 million.
And did that hurt? Like, do you remember what happened?
I'm about to cry. Yes, it hurts. It hurts a lot. I don't want to actually remember it. Yes, it hurts. Losing that kind of money hurts. It hurts the wallet, but it hurts knowing that you put people to work, knowing that you didn't make maybe the right decisions. You could have done better. It's your job. What did I do wrong? Why didn't I see it? Did I let my ego get in the way? Did I pick the wrong people? Man, how are these people going to look at me now? They trusted me. I don't know what they were going to do with that money. Yeah, they may be wealthy, but it doesn't matter. That's not my problem. I can't count their money.
I think most entrepreneurs have something like that, like a moment where you kind of stood in the dark alone, maybe didn't tell your wife, didn't tell your kids. Everything was kind of going sideways. I've certainly had them. My dad calls it the head in the hands moment,
So what?
the head in the hands moment.
Yeah.
And I was curious, have you had one of those?
Plenty of times I've had that. I have it now. I have it now. You know, I was speaking to someplace and they said to me, "What are your hobbies?" I said, "Oh, you know, snowboarding, going to UFC fights, and fishing." And I said, "Wait a minute. I really haven't done none of that in the last year." And they said, "Why?" I said, "Because my head is in my hand." "Why is your head in your hand, Daymond?" "Because AI is going to turn this country into a civil war. Because when the have-nots don't have anything, they're coming after us. So what am I doing right now with this AI that's clear, that's going to put me, my company, and my people in the right place to be that small percentage that's going to be able to thrive? Because if I don't think and see where that puck is going right now, we're all in trouble in my company and in every company. We're all in trouble." And then I start thinking about it. Wait a minute. What is AI going to lose and not have? Never going to have community. People going to need to piss, shit, and eat. People going to need medicine. If we are going into some kind of war or problem because 80% of the people are going to be replaced by autonomous vehicles who are truck drivers, retail is gone, and then all of a sudden you got Amazon just bought 750,000 robots, so nothing there. If all those people are going to need to feed their families and they're going to come after some of us, well, then I should invest in security companies in various other ways to make the place a safer place. So my mind is right there. Where is it going?
Interesting. So what is your answer to that? What industries are you investing in today, and what are you telling your employees to do?
Well, I think that if robots are gonna be $30,000 a piece from what do you call it, Tesla, in 2 years, they're gonna be 5,000 in 5 years. If people moving further out and they don't have enough income, well, then you can create better glamping in various areas. Imagine having 20 robots on 400 acres of land, just cleaning and doing everything it needs to be so that you can create better communities for people. If biohacking and health is coming around, imagine if you're getting people cleaner ways to take care of their body and their health. It doesn't cost a lot because technology is showing people how to improve their lifespan. You know, if you don't know if you're talking on a screen to a robot or whatever the case is, community is going to be bigger and better. So how do you create better communities so they can educate and they can protect themselves? So we have to find the beautiful things that work in AI. Do I think we're going to be good? Yes. I think we're going to be great. But you have to be the one thinking about it now. You don't want to be the person who's working at the library saying, why are you looking at Google? Come over here and look through an encyclopedia. You want to be that person looking at Google saying, how are we using it the best? I like your idea. I love buying boring businesses because as fast as AI is, it's not going to change the entire world. Like my buddy, Matt Lieber, who teaches trade, Crash Champions. You know, you can go to college now, and let's say you're a doctor. A doctor used to have to need 20 years of education to look at a scan. AI will look at your scan quicker than a doctor ever will. Do you really need that now? Trust me, do me a favor. If you're going to cut open people, go to college. But a kid graduating college today is going to barely make 70, 80,000. A kid who does a trade like in my buddy Crash Champions or HVAC or these things that people don't want to do anymore, they're making 70,000 coming out of high school. They're not borrowing $500 to $700,000 worth of student debt that they're not going to pay up until their 50s. And they can take college courses at the same time as being an HVAC person or owning a car wash. I think the world is getting really simple, and you got to go back to the basics and then add AI to it.
Yeah, it's smart. Well, it kind of goes back to your book, which I loved, The Power of Broke, about, AI is not going to hustle for you like a human. Like the creative will become so much more important because the everyday will be way too easy. Like it will be too easy to mass spam, mass email people. So you're gonna have to fit, like it actually might full circle revert back to the door knocking, back to the neighborhood
It is.
signs, you know?
That's the point. Rick Rubin said something the other day was fascinating to me. He said, AI couldn't have told the Wright brothers to dream.
Oof, what a line.
Right? The thing that makes us imperfect makes us perfect. The ability to say, I'm going to knock on all these doors and I'm going to tell them something a computer can tell them, but not with the emotion because I'm a pack animal. I'm going to look them in the eye and say, see that house down the block we painted? Look how beautiful that house is. Yeah, you can get painted from any place else. I'm going to bust my ass to make sure this fucking house is perfect.
One of my favorite lines from Daymond is the easiest thing to sell is the truth. And if you listen to Daymond talk, you'll hear him say again and again and again that the most important part of building a business is to do it your way with your unique angle. And there's an angle every single time. We obsess about this in the SMB boardroom, where we teach people what we call finding your avatar, which is finding the angle on your customer. Most people do not spend enough time thinking about brand, customer, avatar, and angle. So we obsess on it for you. For 1 year, we work together with the best entrepreneurs who are focused on growth sustainably and want to use our operating system in order to do it. If you are running a business that is on a path to do hundreds of thousands of dollars a year or millions of dollars a year, you're going to want to check out the boardroom and see if you're a fit. We will help you find your angle and your avatar. I'd love your take on brand because I think that's one of your zones of genius, obviously. But, we have this window washing company called Pinks. And Pinks. Yeah, it's super cute. I should have brought one. I should have brought a hat for you. But anyway, it's these two young dudes and good-looking guys, dress real sharp in uniforms, kind of like throwback '50s era uniforms, cursive, like hand-stitched little pink towels they throw over their shoulders. They're good-looking dudes, all of them. Now there are 100 locations all over the country. But when it started, it was just two guys in Austin, and they do these. What do they call it? Comp cleans, where they go to local businesses like prominent institutions in Austin, and they clean them and make them look nice for free. And their whole thing is like bringing dignity back to window washing, like bringing dignity back. So when they go and pitch, the commercial building, sure, there's some big, huge company that they're pitching against that's probably cheaper, that's probably has better systems, but these two guys show up and they look the guy in the eye and they say, we not only do I want to do your first one for free, but like it's me and my buddy here, and we started this company, and we're going to be out front with like our cool designed thing, and we want to put you on Instagram, and they win. And so I do think this brand is going to be so important in an era when like a lot of execution's cheaper.
You're 100% on, because you got to remember, and I'm a very simple guy. There's nothing new in this world. I always say it. The voice is not new. It's just American Idol. They just turn the chairs. And American Idol is Showtime at the Apollo, and Showtime at the Apollo is the Gong Show. It's not new. Young kid in college stood up and said, Mr. John, I'll tell you what's new your old generation doesn't have. Emojis are new. No, they're not. They will call hieroglyphics, you moron. Go sit down. Now, there's nothing new in this world. It's a new way to present it. The top companies in Shark Tank history: socks and a sponge. Damn scrub daddy. Lori ate my lunch on it.
That is a great
And every time I go to the
company.
grocery store, I see that damn sponge smiling at me. $1.3 billion worth of sponges. She's slinging plastic like Happy Meals. She's killing our oceans. But you know my buddy Ryan Dice out of Austin? You know Ryan?
I do, not like personally, but I know
Ryan is a
him.
genius. He says, listen, let me show you. You know how you can market, he said he remembered marketing and Roland. He remembered marketing a lawnmower company. He says, he said, I remember I got a brand new lawnmower. Oh, I'm going to do it. He said, and I remember I got out there and I got that thing ready and I forgot I needed gas. And I went to the gas station. He says, I live in Austin. I left, I was 180 pounds. I got back, I was 160 pounds. I'm sweating. The day's gone. I got grass and bugs flying all over me. He says, so I hired a lawnmower company. They came over and it was Saturday after a hard week of work. I had this damn lawnmower out there. Nah, these guys are running around the yard. My wife's naked trying to get dressed. And she's like, who the hell's in the yard? He said, but another company came back and said, you know what? We mow lawns during these hours when you're at work. You tell us when, because we want to give you your Saturdays and your Sundays back.
Good line.
You tell us when you're at work, we'll tell you when we're going to be there, and we will be there. Everything has an angle. There's nothing new in this world. So whether it is we're bringing the dignity back. Some people want to feel good. Come to our business. Everything, you see the people cleaning the windows? We're perfectionists in everything we do, from who we hire to who we work with to how these windows are going to look. Great idea. And that's what you sell people, that separate people. People think, everything's new. You know what's the most powerful thing you could do now? Billboards. You can't swipe a billboard when you're on a highway. Oh, retail's dead. Yeah, open a retail in an airport. They can't get Amazon in there. It's a high traffic place, and it's a person who knows how to pay a lot of money because they're not taking a train or a car, and they're paying 30% more.
It's so true, because I think what you've had 10,000 reps 10,000 times from all of these companies that you've not only run, but invested in. And so one of the cool things I think you're doing now that I don't hear you talk about as much is the CEO Access Program, and how you're kind of like sharing these pieces back to the next generation, not keeping it all to yourself. Can you talk a little bit about that?
CEO Access is it's a network of people like Codie, right? Yesterday's CEO used to be make it and they will come. Today's CEO is a person that They need to know who their brand is. The most successful CEOs I know, they're doing millions and billions of dollars, but nobody knows who they are. But yet the kid in the mailroom gets pissed off over a decision you make and puts something on social media, and now you got to fire 400 hardworking people in your company because you didn't have the time to go get a spin doctor, handle PR, because nobody knows who you are. You know, everybody is a brand today. You remember, like we were talking about, information is easy to get. The new currency of today is attention. And so there's a million real estate brokers. There's only one Barbara Corcoran. There's a million, well, not a million, but there's a lot of basketball owners, only one Mark Cuban. And by the way, I'm not even a great designer. I got to tell you, Tom Ford and Karl Lagerfeld are rolling over saying, how dare he call himself a designer? You put a '05 and a FUBU on a bunch of sweatshirts. That's it. But I'm on Shark Tank and the world knows who I am. And I've advised every single living president till today. They haven't asked me for money. I can walk into any room and they know who I am and my name. I can open any company I want to, and I can walk into any room I want to because my name goes in the room before I do. There's a million real estate developers, but the most powerful man in this world today knew how to brand himself as not only real estate, and I'm not getting into politics. He's the president of the country. So when you look at CEOs, they don't know who to talk to because they're running big companies. But once they were doing 5 million, they could talk to these people here. Great. 50 million, these people here. Once they start to get to 2 million, 200 million, who are they going to talk to? Mark Cuban's not picking up the phone. And this person, even though they're doing great, can't help them. So that's what it is, because when I go on to a show like with Codie, I go, hey, Codie, I got 2 or 3 great. I can't be on the show tomorrow. What, the episode's all gonna be about me? Hey, you're looking for people like Matt Ebert, the Crash Champions, or my buddy who's doing several billion, changing the way hearing is being done. You would say, I'm interested. When I take a stage like Aspire, I can't take slide of one and at 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock. When I go on the cover of Inc., I start bringing these people through. When I walk ringside at a UFC fight and I say to somebody, you don't know this person? Or I go to Vanity Fair and I introduce my buddy Brandon to Tim Cook. That's what CEO Access is. Walking CEOs in the room and walking them in the right CEOs for the right reason. People who don't want to be famous. They want to be respected for the right reason as a voice of authority in their space. But you can go to ceoaccess.com. I don't even know it half the time. It's just we qualify people.
We'll drop it in the show notes
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
So
no,
go click the link.
I do appreciate it.
I love that. Why did you do that? Why not just keep it all for yourself?
Because first of all, I can't use it all myself. Second of all, it really happened because one of my buddies, who was a CEO of a very successful company, said, why don't you help me? And I said, I'm the people shark. I'm helping the people. He's like, yeah, I know you're helping the people, but I know this man. And I know this person is one of the purest people on the planet. And he said, I understand you helping everyday entrepreneurs. I think you should. But if you help me, you got more people like me thinking like you, and I'm going to help millions of people. And I said, holy shit, I'm becoming the thing I was fighting against. And I decided to help him, and he decided to help so many more people. So if I can build an army of a couple of people like that, you know, it's just great. See, it's why you help people. It's why we help people. You know, the people in our industry who they come, they go, they show jets, they show cars, they try to sell you this thing. Nothing against them. But the people who are lasting a long time, they get on, they keep talking, they put out more and more books, they help more. They just want to help because we've been rewarded for the people who
100%.
helped us.
Yeah, I mean, one, it's fun. There's like, I don't know that there's a better, it is selfish in some ways. Because when
Very selfish, because you learn how other people are doing things that you didn't even think about.
Totally. And then when you actually say like, oh, I mean, how about this? How many people do you think DM you and email you per day asking for advice?
DM and email me per day, I would say 100.
And then of those, how many, if you gave them the advice they asked for, would actually take action on
None.
it? Yeah, it's fucking-
one.
Yeah, one maybe.
But when they do.
Yeah, but when they do, it's incredible. And so I think the other part that's really cool is when you find people, best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, right? So like when you find somebody who's just done the right thing, keeps moving, takes action, and then they take your, you know they're going to take your
Doesn't it
advice
feel
and
good
run.
when somebody, and you go, Go, yeah, you know what? Your book or what you said that day, I've been doing it and I have this type of business. You go, oh, really?
Yeah.
And then you feel like, you know what? Honestly, that information was out there. You were going to do it regardless. But thank God you got it from me.
Yeah, it's a service.
Because in the community, there is people who obviously we don't know and we're training, but then it is me calling my fellow sharks because that's what we do. We say, hey, where are you doing an interview at? One of my CO access people we've been trying to get there do. Nelly, of course, but she's on The Apprentice. Katrina Camp. And so we always say, I told Katrina, I said, Katrina, here's what we're gonna do in the CO Access crew. We're all gonna get Laverne and Shirley jackets. We're gonna have a secret, you know, a secret handshake.
She like it? Was she in for that?
She's like, I'm cool with the jacket, but the handshake.
The other stuff, not so much. All right, let's talk. I want to go high and then I want to go low. So let's talk about holding company structure really quickly. I think people think it's really sexy to own a bunch of businesses and invest in them, and then they probably don't realize a lot of the difficulties. Like, I mean, how much do you think you pay people just to oversee your companies that you have interests in?
Really good question. So I first did a lot of the deals, Shark Tank and off Shark Tank. I did a lot of the deals where I had an attorney look through them and this and that. And for the first year in Shark Tank, and the sharks are learning too, and that's like you said, like being a little selfish. The first year and the deal flow wasn't that good. The show was new, nobody can understand. I spent about $750,000 in attorney fees alone just to look at these deals. Now I put it through a VC software. It cost me $10,000 to do everything. But brand managers looking over it, I could be at $250,000 just looking at brand managers. We're not talking about CFOs. We're not talking about other things like that. Also, I look at a lot of the deals I do options on the deals because I'm not trying to fill out all this corporate filing and stuff like that, and especially if you're late on your K1s and I'm late and all kind of stuff like that. So I try to do if we hit certain numbers, then I can activate my options and my shares in a certain period of time.
Yeah, I love that. Then you basically you don't have to deal with the tax consequences of
Correct.
it.
And then you know what? In 3 years, if it doesn't work out, well, the IRS says you're allowed to write that off.
Yeah, and then also the company can keep your equity. Hey, it didn't work out the way I wanted it to, so I'm not being selfish.
So what did I do? You know what? I went out and I was a spokesperson for a long period of time. It didn't pop. Don't worry about it. Take whatever I did. It's yours.
That's super smart. How many bank accounts do you think you have to manage all this?
Um, I probably have about 35, probably, maybe 40.
Yeah. And what about when it comes for organizational structure? So like how do you think about the holding company that is Daymond John? Is that how you think about it? Is it a holding company?
I wish I was as organized as you may think I am. I'm Willy Wonka, but the chocolate factory got a lot of shit going on in it. But yes, I do have that. I work with, there's a lot of different things. I work with a guy named Hillel Presser, who is a really amazing attorney for asset protection
Yeah.
for holding companies and various other things like that. He's one of 12 people out there that this is all they focus on because it's important. One thing about it's very hard to make money, super hard to keep it. I'll give you an example. I have an RV. And he was telling me, and I was like, okay, well, we got the RV. He said, put it on the RV LLC. No problem. He said, who's the satellite radio? Satellite radio, my wife, because we have a satellite radio account. He said, you just pierce your corporate veil. He said, because if you get in an accident, they can just say, the judge will say, you didn't respect your LLC because your wife, it should have been under the RV's LLC. A lot of people don't realize this, and they can come after everything you own if, God forbid, you had an accident. That can happen with it. It's a taxi cab model or the apartment model. You get one holding company, but each taxi cab has its medallion, it's this, it's that. A lot of people don't know about how to protect themselves against a lot of these things because unfortunately, the people listening to us, they're probably good people. The people that wake up every day to wonder how to screw you when you're running a real business, other people going, I don't have anything to run. I want to scam you. I want to buy the fake Shark Tank ads. All the sharks invested in this pill. I want to put out if you only loan. So there's a lot of, I hate to say, there's a lot of bad people that they're looking every day on how to hurt you.
Yeah, one of my favorite mentors, he had this line. He has a breakfast he does, and it's once a month with a group of other big time entrepreneurs, much bigger than me. And he goes, there's a price of entry, though, for it. And he goes, the only people that get invited to this breakfast are people that make, and it was a certain amount of money. So a certain amount of money, people that have been entrepreneurs and divorced before. And then finally, people have been sued. He goes, you got to be sued, you got to be divorced, and you got to have made this much money. And then you got to have lost this much money. He goes, and then I know that you will know what it's been like to be an entrepreneur.
That's hardcore.
It's hardcore.
Yeah.
And whether I believe all of that or not, there's a truth to it. Like have you ever met a successful entrepreneur that hasn't had to go through some type of lawsuit?
Absolutely. You have to. Um, when because the reason why I think as an entrepreneur you go through a lot of lawsuits is, number one, you're taking a lot of swings. Number two, you're really trying to attach to other people because you're this hopeless romantic that everybody wants to strive for better things in life. And then you do get someplace, you start to move up here, and these people start to resent you or not understand. You never hear the story of, you always hear, I helped start the company. No, you weren't shit. You didn't help start the company. You came along after we kind of started the company. You wanted a free ride. We had to move on, and now you're the one complaining. There's a big '05 on all the FUBU jerseys. You ever seen this '05? It's obnoxious, the 5. Why? Because I always wanted to be 5 partners. There's only 4 of us. There's 10 people with that 5th partner that never stuck around. So there's 10 people out there going, I'm the 5th member of FUBU. There's 10 of the 5th Beatles running around.
I don't think people talk about that enough, because it seems to me like one of the most important deals you ever do is the people you partner with.
I've never had a pitch going, let me tell you something. I'm not going to do anything I say I'm going to do, and I'm going to make excuses about every single other person around me, and no matter what, it's going to be your goddamn problem.
I wish somebody would. If we could read their mind, then we'd know that a lot of people think that way.
Yeah, nobody ever said that to me.
Yeah, but a lot of people do. But then I remember that that's the reason why it's easy for people who don't do that to win. Not easy, but easier. Like, thank God.
If every single one of them knew what you and I were going to do, there's no place for you and I.
Exactly. So you got to appreciate the haters and the flakers, I think. Okay, I want to end on one last question for you. You got a mic, and every entrepreneur you want to speak to standing in front of you, what do you leave them with? What do you tell them?
What is your why? Are you doing it because you want to do it? Or are you doing it because your parents told you this is what success looks like? Are you doing it because you don't want to take that out, you don't want to put up that out of business sign because you're embarrassed of what the community is going to say to you? Are you doing it because you think that somehow you're going to arrive at one moment and the work is going to stop? Why are you doing it? Because once you know why you're doing it, then you're going to know the goals that you need to set and the homework you need to do to enforce those goals. If you don't know why you're doing it, you need to go to a place to understand that why. I'm not a billionaire. I'm not a billionaire by choice. I'm offered often, huge venture deals. A bank, very famous, the most powerful bank said to me, Daymond, you know what? I'll give you a 1.3 billion credit line. I'll put a merger and acquisition person over there with you. We bank the top 1,000 companies in the world. We know they have these initiatives for minority vending. Everybody will respect the fact that you're a minority vendor because of your history and you're on TV. We will give you the money. We want you to acquire, like in a hotel, we want you to acquire a rug company, a lighting company, a furniture company. We want to then put you into bid for this stuff, and you will most likely get the contract because of who you are, the funding we have for you, and your history. And I guarantee you, Daymond, you probably will make an average of whatever. I'm 56 years old. That's a 20-year run with 20,000 people working for me. I will be 76 at that time. The worst time of my life is when I had 7, 8 homes and all my friends enjoyed the homes. I can only sleep in one bed. I have a little 9-year-old girl. She will never see me again if I go back to doing that. I already missed my 31 and my 26-year-old growing up because I was so busy working. Why would I do that? No. So what is your why? Why would I do that? So somebody could see me on a yacht? I can rent that yacht and give it right back to the owner. So let that be their damn problem.
No more pets.
Why are you doing it? Why do you not know your wife and your husband? Are you going out making sure that a lot of people see you that can't stand you? So why are you doing it? Know your why. But if you're waking up every day because you're solving a problem for a person, you're bringing them joy, and you love it, then you do that.
Daymond John, this was amazing. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Daymond John is the man. If you guys liked this episode, wait until you see what's next. You are going to want to subscribe and you are going to want to follow along because our next guest is just as good as this one was. And I thought this one was incredible. Also, if you guys want to hear more about Daymond's new program, it's ceoaccess.com. I thought it was pretty incredible and I'm excited that he came and talked to us about it today. Lastly, I want to hear what you guys think about this episode. Drop in the comments for me. What questions should I have asked that I didn't? What was your favorite question? And what did you think was not a very good question? I'll hear all of them from you. I'll read all of them, and I'll make sure that we do better every single time. Thank you for being here. You are a very big deal to me and to us.
Automation is to your time what compounding interest is to your money.
If you have ever wanted to grow on social media, to be seen as an expert in what you do, to leverage audience to make more money, to get more sales, and to figure out how the biggest names in the world actually got there, this interview is for you. This is an interview with Rory Vaden, who is a multiple times New York Times best-selling author himself. And he has created what I would say is the formula for growing online, growing audience, and then figuring out how do you make more money in your business and your life once you become an expert.
When you have a genuine passion for helping other people, and if you can obsess about it, the way that Dave's obsessed about getting people out of debt, the way that Lewis obsesses about helping people overcome self-doubt, your world starts to change and you start to change the world of the people around you.
You have a lot of systems and ideas for how you get people to think in frameworks.
Think about it like a rocket. Your personal brand should be the sort of side boosters that you use to get the business off the ground. But then once you get it launched out into space, then your personal brand falls off and the business can just sort of follow a trajectory and live on without you.
Interesting.
The best form of marketing in the world is a...
This is the Big Deal Podcast, and I'm Codie Sanchez. This interview is really interesting. It's hyper tactical. If you don't want to learn about how to make more money online, and you don't want to learn about how to grow online, you're going to hate this interview. But if you do like that, I would sit down, grab a pen, listen up, maybe listen to it twice, because this man has not only done this for himself, but for many, many others. Without further ado, I want to bring you my dear friend Rory, and I want to get into it. So when I was thinking about writing my book, and then I was thinking about marketing my book, there was sort of one human I called all the time, which was you. And we talked about, man, how do I get on the right stages? How do I make this go really viral? Who are the people that are behind sort of the biggest names in the world? And your name obviously came up, and we've shared many a stage now across the country. But, today I thought we could start.
By the way, that book went New York Times bestseller, baby. Didn't it? It sure did.
And you said we were going to, too. I was like, I don't know. Is it?
It was awesome. I'm proud of you, dude.
Well, thanks. You helped a lot. We, many a late night text, and we were joking, but I hate voice notes. You love voice notes. So I had to outlaw them.
We had conflict.
I know, exactly. Except they were so good that I had to listen to them, which was so annoying for me, too.
And then I learned a lot because you were like, "Hey, I need you to communicate with me in writing." And I was like, "Okay, that's good. I will write it. I will write it out for you."
Codie is honest. Codie is too honest. But where I thought we could start for people today was, I believe that the internet and attention is the most powerful weapon that you have today in the 21st century. And if you have money, you can buy attention. But if you don't have money, you can't buy attention. And so for people today, I was kind of thinking, if we could break this down from, let's say right now, You have no audience, no followers. Where would you start?
Yeah. I mean, you have to start by changing how you think about online. I mean, I think when we talk about personal branding, people, their mind goes crazy to like TikTok and algorithms and brand guidelines and colors and logos and fonts. The way that we define it is that personal branding is simply the digitization of your reputation. So what I would want, if you're just starting out, what I would say is remember that this is reputation. It is as old as time. Like what matters more than the number of followers you have is the depth of trust that your followers have with you. And so people get all freaked out about like who they're going to be on camera and what they're going to say. And it's like, be who you are in real life. Be someone that is an expert. Be someone who adds value to people, be someone who adds value to people's lives and build trust first and foremost.
Love it. So if we were going to get super tactical.
Yeah.
So first we got to start out with getting an online following is really just reputation increase, right? But if somebody came to me and they were like, I want to grow my personal brand fast and I want to follow your system, Rory, what would be the first couple of steps that you would tell them? Do you have like a steps 1 through 10?
Sure. Here's what I would say. Don't start with why, start with who. So I love Simon Sinek, but when you're building a personal brand, what matters most is being clear on who you're talking to. Once you're clear on who you're talking to, every other downstream decision becomes clear. What are their problems? What content will attract them? What can I sell to them? How much can they afford? What do they need? Where are they? How do I reach them? If you are unclear on your who, every other decision becomes fuzzy. Like, what do I say? What do they want to hear? What topics? If you have diluted focus, you get diluted results. So you have to get crystal clear on who you're talking to. Now, the shortcut on this to figure out who is your who, what we realized is that for all of us, you are most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. You are most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. That's the fastest path to get clear on your who. And once you nail that, now all of a sudden I can serve that person in the deepest way. And now all of a sudden you have a chance to make content that breaks through the noise. So that's the first place. You start with who.
That's so true, which is basically just like in business, you build an avatar. You build your digital avatar who's going to be the person you sell things to. And if you're selling attention, it's the same exact thing, right?
Absolutely.
And the biggest problem I think most founders have is they think, oh, it's my product. I need to sell this coffee. The coffee's not selling because the coffee's not perfect enough. But often your problem is actually you don't know who you're selling to, and so you never can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And look what you're doing. I mean, you are serving the person you once were. You're teaching people how to do all of the things. Same with us, right? What are we doing? We're helping experts, entrepreneurs, speakers, authors, coaches, whatever, because we've been in this space our entire career. That's the shortcut.
Let me guess. You've got one tool for email, one for SMS, and another for forms, maybe a separate dashboard for analytics, and somehow you're still not sure if anything's working. That's, I think, the reality for most e-commerce brands. Bloated tech stacks that eat time, wreck your margins, and require a full-time ops person just to function. OmniSend changes that. It's a single platform where email, SMS, sign-up forms, automations, segmentations, and analytics all live in one clean dashboard. You get powerful tools without the learning curve or the price creep. You can launch campaigns in minutes, not hours, and you can buy customer journeys that trigger automatically based on behavior. And the data, it tells you what's working, what's not, and where to double down. Whether you're running lean or managing a growing team, OmniSend makes your marketing operate like a real system, not a to-do list. So if your stack feels like duct tape and prayer, it's time to upgrade. OmniSend was built for brands that are serious about scale. So after you figured out your who, what is next if you want to grow online?
Be able to answer this one question in one word. What problem do you solve for that person? If you look at some of the biggest personal brands in the world, I think of like Brené Brown. Brené Brown owns the topic of shame. She has studied shame for decades, and she became one of the world's leading thinkers, one of the most influential people in the world because she owns that topic. You look at Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey owns the topic of debt. Like he owns that. He owns that word. This is part of how I broke through the wall originally in our first company. All I did was study procrastination, was the psychology of getting people to do things they didn't want to do, right? My first book was Take the Stairs, and it was just a metaphor for how to get yourself to do the stuff you hate doing. Brand Builders Group now, the word that we solve is obscurity. All we do is help people become more wealthy and well-known. So most personal brands cannot speak with a level of clarity about what is the problem they solve for people. And in order for people to pay attention, I have to be able to solve a problem for them, or I at least have to be useful for them. So I would try to narrow that down to one word. And then I would also make a list of maybe 52 questions that your prospect has about the problem that you solve for them. And I would start systematically addressing them. And I'm just trying to go, how can I be so useful that they can't ignore me? How can I be so valuable that they have to pay attention? When I got introduced to you, it's like when you meet high profile people, you can't just jump in and sell them stuff. The goal should be, how can I be so useful they have to pay attention to me? At least that's the goal. That's our strategy.
It's actually so true. A lot of times people will say, how do you get a mentor? How do you get a mentor? And I think the answer to how you get a mentor is exactly that. Make yourself so useful that you become so valuable to them for $0 that they end up eventually wanting to pay you a lot of zeros. And it is this weird flip. And I think a lot of people struggle with that early on because they're like, well, I don't know anything. How am I going to be useful to a Rory, right? Or how am I going to be useful to a Dave Ramsey? But they don't realize that all of us, we have actually just massively more needs. The more successful you become, the more holes you have to fill.
Totally.
And so anywhere that you find some curiosity for a super famous person or for a super successful person, and you think, God, I just want to go down this rabbit hole. And I looked at their website and I found all the spots that I didn't understand. And I went to their social media and I created like 3 ideas for videos that they didn't have. And I just gave them the scripts. It's almost like this upfront work gives all of this back end opportunity.
Absolutely. And I would say philosophically, that's another thing that the best personal brands in the world do is they give first, they serve first, and they allow the money to show up second. It's like paying in rears versus paying in forwards, right? So there's some services we pay and then we get the service. But in the online world, it's like I have to automate trust at scale. One of our mantras that we say is save the best for first. Save the best piece of content you have for the very next thing that you teach. Like you don't have to be scared about giving away all your good stuff and then no one buying. You have to be scared about not giving away anything good enough that nobody ever comes back. So you have to always push yourself to be like, again, it's that value throttle. And it's like, how can I increase the throttle here on adding value to everyone around me? And that applies, I think, offline and online. But, I mean, the reason people pay attention to you is your content is so freaking good. It's so useful. And I think when you're picking your content strategy, I mean, high level, it's one of the 3 E's. We call it the 3 E's. You're either entertaining, and I'm not that entertaining, but some of you are. Some of you can be. You have encouraging, so you can be inspiring and uplifting, and I try to be a little bit of that. But for most of our clients, it's educational, and it's going, what can I teach? And everyone thinks, oh, I don't have anything to teach. And you go, unless you're serving the person you once were. Then all of a sudden, all of us are qualified to teach because we've experienced the pain. We've overcome the obstacle. We've walked through the setback. And now all of a sudden, that's all the credibility that I need.
Yeah, it's such a good point. And it's, one of my mentors said to me, when you get in rooms with people who have more zeros than you, they can actually see into your future because they've been there. And so it's the same idea of, I remember the first time before I was making $1 million a year, before the business was making 8 figures, before the business hit 9 figures, I just got lucky in being in rooms where other people already had the business that I wanted. And it, what was wild is because I got to sit next to, John, who had a business that was already doing $8 million a year back when mine was doing $1 million a year. John basically said, oh, here's going to be the next 5 issues that you have. And so because I knew that, since he had already been through it, I got to steal his 10,000 hours. I got to compress 7 years into 1 year from his interaction.
Yeah.
And so it's a real value, I think, that people don't realize that if you have something to share from your historical lessons, you're doing the world a solid when you put it out there. And I didn't realize that at first because I thought people who taught just couldn't do. We've all heard that adage. And I also thought, well, God, if it works so well, why are you telling other people? Why wouldn't you just go do it yourself? And I remember seeing like a clip. We could actually play the clip here, which is from Mark Cuban. And his clip basically said, If they're telling you about how to do it on the internet, it doesn't work, because if it worked, they'd just go do it. And I thought that was so funny. Sounds great, except it's wrong, because what actually happens is when you give more, you get way more in return. And why do you think some of the richest men in the world, Ray Dalio, for instance, are out telling his theory? Because he gets more clients from it. He gets more deals from it. He gets more hires from it. So I think it's super, super powerful to do all of this.
Yeah. Well, and I would purport that there's another massive piece of the transaction that you don't hear enough about, which is, yeah, you get money. Yeah, you get followers. Yeah, you get influence. The other thing you get is significance.
Yeah.
You get purpose. There is nothing like the feeling you get when you help somebody else succeed, right? And you go, well, if you're so rich, why don't you go do it? And it's like, well, there's a point where you go, I'm not playing because I need more money. I get my thrills. Like, no kidding. When I walked into your office downstairs, the thing I was so excited to see was right next on your wall is a picture of your book cover that says New York Times bestseller. Yeah. I'm so much more excited when a client has a level of success than even with our own these days.
Yeah.
Because you climb that ladder enough times and you realize it's great, and it's worth doing, but it's still, there's always, you're moving the goalpost. There's always someone bigger than you, something better. There's something, ahead. But when you help somebody succeed, it's not just it's a feeling you get. It creates context and value for your life. And I think that's what not enough people are talking about with the internet. And the other thing is, you also don't need to have millions of followers to make millions of dollars.
No.
One thing that the people watching this need to understand is very few people are going to be you. Very few people are going to reach millions and millions and millions. The good news is not everybody has to. It's actually it tends to be easier for the average person to make more money by serving fewer people in a deeper way, right? Than it is to serve lots of people in a very shallow way. It's like don't be so focused on the width of your reach that you overlook the depth of your impact. Because just because you have a cat video go viral and you get lots of followers, that doesn't mean that people are going to trust you and buy from you, right? Just because a lot of people are watching doesn't mean they're going to give you their money. Now, you might make money from the platforms, but even that tends to be pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
If I can serve a really small audience in a deep way, if I can be their favorite, if I can be their most trusted, if I can be the person that they look forward to consuming their post, that they don't just look in their feed, that they search my name, then I go, that person is likely to hire me. And not just buy a $20 book, but someone who might spend a few thousand to tens of thousands of dollars in a program. For most people watching, that's the actual path to get rich. It's to serve a smaller audience in a deeper way. At least I think that's the more scalable way to do this.
Give some examples of that, because I totally agree with you. And I think actually there's a lot of downsides to super big reach, which is you have to almost water down your message slightly to go so wide. And it has a direct anti-correlation to conversion, aka getting people to buy things from you. And so there's plenty of people who make way more money in their businesses with a much smaller audience set. But like, give some examples. Like, what would that be?
Well, one example would be us, honestly. So, a lot of people have heard of our clients, right? Like Ed Milet and Lewis Howes and Amy Porterfield, like these really amazing clients that we work with. A lot of them have millions of followers.
Yeah.
We do not.
Yeah.
Right? But we're generating multi-8 figures, and you're going, how? We only have 1,000 customers. And it's actually because of a technique that we call fractal math.
No.
Okay, we need to talk about this. Okay, so for those of you that aren't numbers people, just stick with me for a second. I'll keep it simple. Fractal math is a strategy that we teach that says 10% of your customers will invest at a level 10 times more than they just did if you give them more intimacy.
Yep.
So let's say you have 1,000 customers and a $30 product. Okay, that's $30,000 in revenue. If you said, how can we double our business? Most people would think, go get another 1,000 customers. And that's not wrong, but that is the most expensive way to double a business, because the most expensive customer is a new customer. So it's not that you shouldn't do that, or that you can't do that, or that it doesn't work. It does work, but there's another way to do it. The other way to do it is to use fractal math. So if you had 1,000 people give you $30, fractal math says that 10% of those, which would be 100, will give you $300 if you give them a level up in intimacy. And then 10% of the, which is, by the way, that's another 30,000.
Yep.
And then 10% of those, which would be 10, would give you $3,000. And 10% of those, which would be 1, would give you $30,000. Here, you've quadrupled the revenue without a single dollar in customer acquisition cost. That's what I mean by going deep. It's by serving a smaller audience in a deeper way. And again, there's nothing wrong with wanting to serve millions of people. But the very definition of reaching millions of people means you have to create content that is applicable to millions of people.
Yep.
Which means it tends to be money, relationships, spirituality, health, politics, right? Like it, and you tend to kind of have to stay high level. To play that game, it's hard to also serve people in a really, really deep way. Yeah. It takes a lot of resources to play that width game. So anyways, it's just realizing that there is another way to do this. So you could be a chiropractor and go, I'm going to service a small number of clients in a deeper way. You could be a counselor and say, say you're a marriage coach. It's one thing to have viral videos about marriage. You also can sell books, but you go, are there a few couples that I could truly counsel and go deep with? And, as intimacy increases, price increases.
Yeah, it's wild. So basically, if you wanted to quadruple your business with one move, it would be that. And it's not so much more sophisticated than pricing. But it's really understanding that there's this correlation between pricing and intimacy when it comes to, let's say, knowledge products. It's wild. Over the last 2 weeks, you are the only reason this podcast has grown. I don't know if you're new here or you've been here for a while and y'all just started sharing more, but you were the only reason that we continue to climb the charts and hopefully provide more and more value for you. We just moved up from top 100 to top 50 in biz on Spotify, which is cool. So thank you for sharing with your friends, and thank you for sharing with your employees, and thank you for sharing in your Slack groups and social media and everywhere else. And if you like this podcast, please do send it to another human that you care about, because you are a big deal to me, and I know they are a big deal to you too. So that's a beautiful thing to do. Thank you for sharing the pod. I know you have something special for anybody that's listening today. If they want to go and get a free...
Yeah, absolutely. So we work with people one-on-one. We work in a very intimate way. So if anyone is listening to this and they feel the calling to go, I want to share my expertise with more people. I want to share my story with more people. If you go to freebrandcall.com/Cody, you can request a call with our team, and we do the first call with everybody for free.
And you'll tell them if it's not a good idea for them.
Yeah,
to do a personal brand.
The first thing, honestly, what we're going to want to do is we're just going to want to hear your story.
Yeah.
We want to go, tell us your story. Where are you at on this journey? How fresh is this idea? Do you have a team? Do you not? And we can work with people at all different levels. Not everyone we work with is Codie Sanchez. Most of them are like starting
You
out.
don't want more than one of those. She's a handful.
But and we will tell people, we'll say, hey, we feel like we can help you.
Yeah.
And there are certain people that we go, we can really, really help you. We call them mission-driven messengers. It's the people who are not just trying to make money, not just trying to grow their reach, the people who are on an absolute crusade to go, this is a calling for me. Those people culturally are going to be the best fit for us. And there's certain parts that we can really help them with, and if we can't, we'll point them somewhere else.
I want to talk about you've worked with a million different celebrities and sort of online influencers. You run the real gamut. What celebrities do you think are nailing personal brand the best today?
Well, so I think I'll use the two of our most flagship clients would be Lewis Howes and Ed Milet. And I'll tell you the story about Lewis, okay? So one of our central philosophies, I've said this already, is if you have diluted focus, you get diluted results. When we first started working with Lewis in 2018, we took him through an exercise that we call the revenue streams assessment. And we listed all these revenue streams on the board. And he had 17 revenue streams. And he was like really proud of that because he's like multiple streams of income. The problem is that he only had like 12 people on his team. That's a lot of revenue streams to manage with only 12 people. And so the only thing we ever did for Lewis, I mean, Lewis gives us a lot of credit publicly. Like, frankly, we have not done much for him. But the one thing that I did kind of do for Lewis, I said, Lewis, what would happen if you shut all of this stuff down and just went all in on this podcast thing? Because for him at the time, he had about 30 million downloads, and it took about 8 years to get there. Wow. And the podcast was a traffic source. He was really making money from courses at the time. But the reason I mention him, Cody, is because he had a mastermind that was generating multi-seven figures in revenue. And in one conversation, he told me, he said, look, my real vision is I want to impact 100 million people every week. And I said, well, if that's true, and this focus thing is true, what if you went all in on that? And he, out of one conversation, walked up and shut down a $2 million revenue stream in one conversation. And he went all in on the podcast. And what happened was he went from 30 million downloads in the next 2 years to 500 million downloads. That is a decision about purpose. That is a decision to stay true to what the vision is. To say, I care more about making a difference than I do about making a dollar. Now, they're not mutually exclusive. No. Lewis has made plenty of money, but he did make a short-term financial sacrifice to go all in on the vision. That is, I think, an epic story that is not something that data could really tell you to do. It was an instinctual decision. So I love that. The other person that I will use is I'll use Ed Milet. I've gotten a chance to know with Ed. We got to work with him a little bit over the years. Ed Milet does not need any more freaking money.
No, he doesn't. I've been to his house, one of them.
Yeah,
they're very, very large.
They're very large and lavish and amazing. Why is Ed Milet speaking on stages? He doesn't need the money. He's doing it because he actually gives a crap about helping people. And this is what I believe is the future of the online influencer. It's not just so much, what's the algorithm? How do I test the thumbnails? How do I split? Those are tactics that are important. They're like fundamentals of the business. But in a world of AI that solves those problems, that can generate thumbnails and can split test things and can optimize ad spends and landing page conversion, what's going to separate is actually the humanity of the messenger. The person who goes, I'm here because I actually give a crap about making your life better. By the way, this is the thing that attracted me to you, was that when I saw you, I saw someone who didn't need money. I know that you're financially motivated, which is great. But what really attracted me to you was that you said, I want to help Main Street America. I want to take the money, not just steal money from people, but I want to teach the principles of Wall Street, and I want to take that to the people on Main Street. I think the reason you succeed, Cody, is not just because you have a great team and you guys use data and you're smart and you're intelligent and you do all the systems. The reason you succeed is because people can tell that you care about helping them. You're actually on a crusade. And I would suggest that the more that AI levels the playing field of the tactics, the more that human energy matters. That's what I'm drawn to, and that's what I think people are drawn to. So I go, who are the people that genuinely care? Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, another client of ours. When Dr. Lyon, we first started working together, I don't know, she had 100,000 Instagram followers. I don't know what she has now, but it's many times over that. I don't know how much money she's making. I know that she's impacting lots of people. And I know that when we first started working together, that's what she cared about.
Yeah.
This is Dave Ramsey, right? I introduced you to Dave Ramsey. I've known Dave Ramsey since he had 100 employees. He has 1,000 employees now. Yeah. They do multi-9 figures a year in annual revenue. There's a lot of people that don't like Dave Ramsey, and there's plenty of things he says that are controversial. But Dave is on the freaking radio every day for 3 hours, 30 years later still. Why? He didn't need money 2 decades ago.
Nope.
He's on the radio because he gives a crap about helping people be out of debt, because he tells the story of what it was like to go bankrupt and have somebody come into his home and take his daughter's crib. Like, that matters to him. That's what a mission-driven messenger is. And I think
It's so true. Well, and even, I remember when I was in Dave's headquarters after you introduced us, and what blew me away, and I think transcends if you want to build a big company that lasts forever, and also if you want a lot of people to care about you on the internet, and also if you want to have a huge impact, like obsession is really hard to beat. And so, people might think we're being touchy-feely by saying we care about people, and if you care more, you'll get more. It's like, it's not enough to just care. You've got to obsess. And when I walked into Dave Ramsey's headquarters, and the first thing that you see is like an example of the old car that he used to have that he sold books out of the back of. It's an entire huge wall and almost like museum exhibit of every single person who's now debt-free. It's that the public is allowed in every single day and given fresh cookies if they want to come and listen to Dave talk. And it's that he brings in his family. It's that and then he's so obsessed that he like squeezed every bit of productivity out of me in that day that he possibly could have. I think I did 3 podcasts. I met with his team. We had lunch, because he's obsessed about his problem set. And so I think the other thing, if you want to be really successful on the internet and you want to grow online, it's the most competitive game you could play because anybody can do it. And so the way that you win is by being obsessed about the thing that you're really interested in. And if you're more obsessed in something small, even better. So I totally agreed with that.
Yeah, I think I love that. And he is a great example. And that is, people like, I'm so nerdy about book launches and the art of speaking and the business of speaking and copywriting and it's like, but this is my uniqueness. And I'll share with you the best piece of branding advice I've ever received. I wish this was my quote. It's not. This came from a guy named Larry Winget. He said, the goal is to find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others. To find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others. To figure out that thing that other people would think is so weird. They'd be like, Rory, why do you care so much about like books? And it's like, I don't know. It's just who I am, right? It's the reason why Cody cares so much about laundromats and like buying boring businesses. It's just who you are. But you go, you lean into that. You become more of that. Here's another great quote. This one's from Sally Hogshead. She's my friend. And she says, the world isn't changed by people who sort of care, right? Nobody changed the world who sort of cared. You change the world by caring so much that it's like you'll endure tremendous pain and tremendous sacrifice. But I think that there is a certain amount of money for most people that it starts to lose its drive. There is a certain amount of followers at some point for most people that starts to like lose its drive. There's a certain amount, once you've spoken on stage in front of 10,000 people 100 times, it's not that you're not like excited to do it. It's not the same. But when you have a genuine passion for helping other people, it's this insatiable desire that's healthy.
Yeah.
And if you can obsess about it, the way that Dave's obsessed about getting people out of debt, the way that Lewis obsesses about helping people overcome self-doubt, the way that Dr. Lyon obsesses about people being healthy and getting accurate health information, the way that Ed obsesses over helping people realize that they're capable of doing more, then your world starts to change and you start to change the world of the people around you. And anyways, I don't know. I'm a geek for this game.
Yeah, well, I also think it's the way that you never lose money and the way you don't lose everything is you make sure you really know who you're serving. I think a perfect example of like an anti-goal would be like the Hawk Tuah girl, right? Like, so she got super famous on the internet, on Twitter for kind of like a goofy thing that she said that was kind of a little sexual about, and she was this cute little girl from Alabama, and she went viral everywhere, and she got a podcast deal, and then what did she do? She confused virality for actual direction. And she ended up going all in on this crypto coin, and her followers lost tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars. That won't happen to you if you know who you're serving, because you'll remember what you're actually trying to accomplish. And I think a lot of people blow up spectacularly online, and lose their focus, because once you do start getting a little bit of success, you'll get a lot of optionality, and you'll have to make really hard decisions that make people don't like you by saying no to things. And you have to, I mean, we just had this conversation actually not too long ago. There was a thing we were both going to kind of knew about a person that was doing something online. That's like the most nondescript thing ever. But
There was a thing.
there was a thing that came up, and, you know, found out some information that just wasn't ethically aligned with me to stand on that person's stage. And so I ringed you and I was like, did you know about this? Let's talk about it. And it wasn't because I don't want to be next to that person. I don't know them. It was because I know my audience is trying to figure out how to get financially free, and they trust me, some of them, and they want to move to the next level. And if I put them in any situation which might not give them the best advice or the best trust from another human, that's breaking my mission. And so if you don't really stand up for something, you'll fall for anything. And those are the hard decisions I think you have to make as you build a business and get a personal brand. One other thing I wanted to actually talk about with you here is, you have so many frameworks and tools and resources that you use. You talked about one, which is this revenue stream breakdown. Can you run us through that in like 30 seconds?
The revenue streams assessment?
Yeah. How do you figure out what revenue streams you should be doing and what you should not be doing using your revenue streams assessment?
Yeah, so simple. All you do is you list out all your revenue streams on the wall, and we just put them through a simple scoring process, and you go, okay, how many years have you been doing it? How much revenue is it? How stressful is it for you to keep up? And what's the DARES score? So DARES is an acronym that we use. It's 5 criteria that make a great revenue stream. We're looking for things that are digital, automated, recurring, evergreen, and scalable. Digital, automated, recurring, evergreen, and scalable. So basically, like, how scalable is this revenue stream? And then how life-giving is it to you? Yeah. And you basically just fill in those numbers and you kind of look at it. And a lot of times what will happen is things will jump off the page like, oh, we're doing this just because it makes a lot of money, but it's actually really hard. Nobody likes it. It's sucking the life out of our team. And other things, like in the case of Lewis, where the podcast wasn't making a ton of money, but the other one is which has the most natural momentum. That's one of the other big ones. And it was like, it had so much natural momentum, and it was so life-giving, and it was low stress, and it was like, all right, well, what would happen if we did that? So, you know, we tend to not be fans of multiple streams of income early on.
Yeah. Okay.
I think most of the people who I know who are rich or filthy rich, they didn't get rich from multiple streams of income. They got rich from doing one thing really, really well. They had one business that really blew up. They focused on concentration first, then they broke through the wall, and then did diversification second. So it's like, yes, many millionaires have many streams of income, but that's not usually how they created the first. Usually they create one stream of income. So most of our clients that we're working with are, you know, their personal brands, or they're small businesses, or they're executives of small companies. And so we're trying to go, if you don't have a huge staff, then you need to figure out what one revenue stream is most likely to succeed and go all in on that one thing. So the revenue streams assessment is just like helps us sort of spot the winner.
Yeah, it's true. I often think I'm tortured on that advice, because I think you won't know what to go all in on until you try a few things.
Sure.
And so I think there's this like middle ground. It's almost like you have to actually do a bunch of revenue streams to start.
You're testing them out.
Yeah, you have a test period. And during that test period, you will actually, you'll think that one does really well, and then you'll realize, oh wait, it's actually missing core components. And you'll have to do that for a bit of time until you do another analysis where you say, oh man, of all of these things that we have, it's really one or two that matter. And then you double down on those.
Yeah.
And then you hit this, it's like, is it like I think it might be 3 steps. It's like first step, revenue stream test and proliferation. Second step is like revenue stream divesting. And third step is
meaning getting rid of streams.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then third step is revenue stream diversification.
Yeah.
And you kind of like do a circle all the way back to you start diversifying, you end diversifying, and in the middle you win by picking winners.
By focusing, yeah. And optimizing one thing, right?
Yeah.
And even like investors, right? It's like they go, well, that's multiple streams. But it's like, well, if you're an investor, like you're just investing. Like that's the only thing you're doing. You're not often balancing a whole bunch of stuff until you break through the wall and you have a team. Once you have team, time, talent, like technology, capital, then you can do all sorts of things, right? But in the beginning, when you don't have a lot of resources, if I have 10 initiatives and I have 10 units of resource, then on average, each initiative gets 1 unit of resource.
Yep.
Once I become wealthy and then I can hire people to do stuff, now I can put more resources on more initiatives. But early on, it's like more people lose because of a lack of focus in that kind of like, I think in that scaling phase of going, I think a lot of small businesses, like they're quick to add 70 revenue streams instead of figuring out let's keep the main thing. But I do agree with you. You got to test early on to even know what works, what feels good, what is your audience responding to.
Yeah.
So I like that.
But I like the DARES analogy. I would totally use that on top of a business analysis. We use RICE often.
Oh, tell me.
Which is, so typically it's reach, impact, cost, and what's the last one? Oh, that's bad. There's one that basically says, like, I can't remember what the word is, but it's like how much time it takes for your team. And so it's a literal formula. But I changed mine from reach, which is like, I think could be touchy-feely, to revenue. So how much money do you make? Impact to the business, which might mean like how many people need to be on the assignment for it. Cost, how much is it going to cost you? And then how long will it take you? And so you actually lay out this revenue model that at the end gives you a number. And the number, then you can stack rank them and decide, okay, what's the next thing that we're going to do? And every time I come up with a new idea now, I try to make myself run it through a RICE model, because otherwise you have too many brilliant ideas that turn out they're not so brilliant when you compare them through your opportunity cost. You know what I mean?
Yeah, opportunity cost is huge. It's like the biggest invisible cost that people don't pay enough attention to. It's just going like, well, I could do that, but what does that pull me away from? Like that being able to calculate the opportunity cost, I think, is one of the.
It's hard.
It's hard, but it's one of the things that people like you do. And going back to what our conversation about trust, it's like never doing anything that compromises the trust of your audience, because that trust is the big opportunity cost. It's like, even if I could sell you something, right? It's like, sure, we could sell them some t-shirts. Is that the right thing though at this moment? And it's like, we can make a quick buck doing this or that or whatever, but it's going, don't ever compromise that trust of your audience.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about, so if I want to get paid for my expertise, what's the roadmap? Like, how do you go, okay, I right now am a chiropractor. I do want to become an expert that is known publicly. I want to break out of obscurity. Maybe I even run a service business and I want people to know who I am. What is the process that you take people through?
Yeah.
So we've gone through the first 2 steps, I think.
Yeah, finding your who, right? And then you got to figure out what problem do you solve. And then you figure out how do you solve it in one sentence. It's really tough. Is going, how do I solve that problem for that audience in one sentence? The next thing we do is we figure out what one revenue stream matters above all in my business. Then the next thing is we create, we take people through a process called captivating content. So we then extract out of their head what is their system that they use for solving that problem. And we want to create original thought leadership, truly innovative intellectual property. My TED Talk that went viral was called How to Multiply Time. There's thousands of books on productivity and tons of people who talk about time management. But the focus funnel, which was the thing that went viral, my talk, you have to get that from me. Why? Because it came out of my head. So we really work on that to go, you can't be someone, you're not going to be paid at the highest level if you're playing cover tunes.
So good.
Like it's not wrong to play cover tunes. Like that can be fun, but don't expect to be the person that sells out arenas if you're playing cover tunes. Yeah. You got to learn to write your own music, and expertise is the same way. So we teach you how to create quotable moments, how to create visuals. We call them frameworks, charts, tables, diagrams that are unique to your methodology, the way that you do it. And this is why, again, we come back to serving the person you once were, because the credibility is not that you get somebody else out there who waves a wand and says, oh, you're credible, or you have a designation. The credibility comes from you've walked the freaking path. Like you've overcome that obstacle and you go, this is how I did it. And as long as you're teaching people how you did something that you actually did or how you helped other people to overcome that, we bottle that up. Then we put people through something called world-class presentation craft, which is preparing their content for the spoken word. So in our universe, the spoken word is the fastest path to cash. To take someone from an absolute stranger, I've never heard of you, to a lifelong fan can happen in 1 hour if you have a world-class 1 hour presentation, which can be a podcast interview, it can be a webinar, it can be on stage, it can be a breakout, a workshop. But if you do it right and you structure your content, someone can go like, how have I never heard of you before? To all of a sudden, I am binging every book you've written, every podcast episode. Then in phase 2, we do all the digital stuff. That's social, funnels, copywriting, etc., podcasting, ads. And then you get to phase 3, which is often a book. A book still to this day is the primary way that you break through the wall of the mainstream to become recognized as a true thought leader. So we do a lot with that. Also the business of speaking. And then we really focus on sales. Yeah. And how to have a sales conversation. And then phase 4 is scaling the infrastructure of the team you need to like pull all of this stuff off.
It's so good. I mean, you know what the funny part to me is one, books suck to sell. So I think
so hard to sell.
They're hard to sell. And yet I think a lot of people want to hit the New York Times. You and I both know what it took to hit that, even with a giant audience. It's a lot of work. And anybody who says that it's not a lot of work, by the way, is lying. Can we talk about that? I mean, I giggle so hard. It's like, oh, I don't care that much. And then I talk to you and you're like, well, I know what they're really doing. It's so good. But the interesting part about books is you don't have to sell a ton. And that was one thing that, you opened up my eyes for a lot of our portfolio companies and our CEOs who are the best painting company in the world, That One Painter, who run an incredible franchise company, Resi Brands, that we run. And I'm talking to him about a book because I'm like, man, you don't need to sell hundreds of thousands of copies. Actually, you just need people to know that they have an opportunity to go deeply into your mind and decide that they want to trust you on your venture. And a book does that in a way very little else does.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of our other mantras around books is we say, bestseller lists don't change lives, but books do. Yeah. Books change lives. Books automate trust. Just like content automates trust, but it's a deeper level. There's a more intimate experience when you're holding the book or you're listening, you're right in somebody's ear, and they're hard to sell, and yet you pour years of your life into like get it captured in the book. And by the way, that's also how you speak, is like people have either seen you speak or they've read something you've written. Those are the two reasons why two ways you get booked to speak. So I think books continue to stand the test of time. Ironically, as it becomes easier to post social content and faster to just fling something up, it still takes muscle and hours and hours and hours to edit a book, to write the book, edit it, pour over it. And so when you're reading a book, you're getting this concentrated, this most concentrated bit of wisdom. And it demonstrates your credibility. You go, want to know who I am? Read this. Yeah. And some people will look at it and go, oh yeah, I'm not interested. Great. Other people will read it and you go, you cannot read this entire book and not want to do more, right? Yep. You cannot read Main Street Millionaire the whole way through and go, oh my gosh, like I want to work with these people. Yeah. So it's still super, super powerful, and I love books. I hope they're around forever.
Yeah, me too. I want to talk really quickly about some more of your frameworks and systems. You talked in the beginning about, creating graphics and named frameworks. I think this is super underrated. We call it productization of services. Yeah. So like when we buy a company, one of the first things that we do is we teach them about how do you turn even a service into something that is a product. Yes. Because otherwise it's not repeatable. And so this weekend is our scaling workshop where we help people build companies. And one of the biggest things we take people through is like everything that you do that you think is a service is actually not, in fact, a service. It's a product. And if we can get you to think about how the fact that it would be really bad if every time I bought a coffee cup like this, it looked totally different and they didn't match and they weren't the same and they had different quality levels, that would mean that I had a bad company. And yet we allow that in service businesses and we don't name and frame them. You have a lot of systems and ideas for how you get people to think in frameworks. Can you talk through some of your favorite systems and frameworks you train people through?
To help them come up with frameworks?
Could be that, and also what you take them through to create this personal brand, because you're kind of the framework guy. Like you have one for everything, I feel like.
Well, yeah, so we do believe in that. So one of this is actually from my How to Multiply Time, the TED Talk. One of my favorite lines in that book is a concept that came to me while I was writing that says, automation is to your time what compounding interest is to your money. Automation is to your time what compounding interest is to your money. Inside of commoditizing a service-based business is the way you automate it. Yep. You make it replicatable, duplicatable, scalable, repeatable, right? So for experts, we have to be able to do that. It's if my expertise lives in my head, the only way you can get it is from me. If it lives in a book, it's scalable. It also, we have strategists at Brand Builders Group, right? So we have about 50 employees, and our strategists can teach and expand because they're teaching a body of knowledge. So the biggest trick to this is very simple, is you first have to clarify the idea. And we say it ugly first. Always just say it ugly first. Write, the first rule of writing is to write. Then you edit and get clear on what you're trying to say. Once you then say it clearly, then you go say it with a picture. So say it ugly first, then say it clearly, then say it with a picture. So once you're saying it clearly, you go, how could I show this visually? Yeah. And if you train your mind to think in that way, I mean, then all of a sudden it resonates with people and it becomes more transmittable, which is a part of virality, right? Is it's going, in order for it to transmit, someone has to be able to share that idea. So anything that makes that idea more shareable, either the way you package what you say or the visual representation of what you say, makes that idea more transmittable. And we're as concerned in going viral offline as we are in going viral online. And so if you can ask yourself that, the other question that we always ask is, how can I forward the thinking of what's been done? So there might be an existing visual or framework that's out there, and you go, okay, how can I add to this? That's what a thought leader does in the true positive sense of the word, is to forward the thinking that's been done. How can I add a layer of usefulness or utility on what else has been written in my space? And that's why it's like we can all talk about topics that other people have talked about, but don't play cover tunes, right? Advance the thinking. Do the work for the people. This is another framework, is we try to go, how can I do more of the thinking work for my customer? So if you use the revenue streams assessment, it's one thing that I'll say, hey, go think about your revenue streams and think about which ones are the ones you should focus on. But if I turn it into a tool and I do the thinking for them, I create a tool that forces them to think in the sequence in which I would think, or another successful client of mine would think, that's where great visuals and frameworks and tools come from.
It's so true. It's wild because it's personal brand. All of this personal brand is exactly related to building a business. I mean, if you want to be a leader in a business and you don't want to hate your business and hate your life, you have to name and frame everything so that you can automate things and then eventually delegate and outsource it. Otherwise, you don't have a business, you have a job. And so it's actually kind of the same. I think about it with some of our businesses. It's like, we have something called the rule of 3. So every time you do a task that has more than 3 steps and you do it more than 3 times, it needs to become an SOP, right? And so rule of 3. And so I don't have to say, hey, remember that you need to create an SOP on this XYZ thing. I just go rule of 3, and they go, yeah. And so then you get to say less words, and your people get to be an extension of your brain, which is so smart. And it's funny because I never thought about it in that way. But if you could think about building your business the exact same way as building a brand, it would be so powerful. Like we have something called the Empire Builder Survey, which basically takes people who own a business through a series of about 13 questions to tell them what value their business has and what areas they could do to make their business more valuable. And the reason why is because we did all these consulting calls with people for like, okay, you want to come in, you might be a fit for us to help you by investing, you might be a fit for us to help you by coming to our workshops, but it was all this one-on-one consultation until finally I was like, no. We can, here are the questions. Here are the buckets of answers. If they answer this way, I want to talk to them about investing. If they answer this way, they need to build the business first. Let's put them to our build. And so it's really applicable not just for a personal brand, but across just about everything. And you also have like a survey or some tools and resources for them,
study.
Don't you? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we invested about over $100,000 conducting a national research study called the Trends in Personal Branding National Research Study. So it's weighted to the U.S. Census, right? It's statistically valid. We followed all traditional academic rigor. It's PhD led to understand how much does this personal brand stuff matter to businesses. So it turns out 74% of Americans say they are more likely to trust you just because you have an established personal brand. 63% of Americans say they're more likely to buy from you because you have a personal brand. 58% of Americans say they're willing to spend more money on the products and services that come from founders where they know the personal brand and the values of the founder. I mean, this, and if you stratify the data by generations, like the age range of people who filled it out, all the trends show that in the next 10 to 30 years, it's going to matter even more. Even more. Now, it's ironic where our worlds collide is to build a business that has value, you want it to be independent of a person. Yep. That's the whole thing that gives a business value. But ironically, what attracts people to a business often is a personality that they can attach to, right? We don't do business with companies, we do business with people.
Right.
But the way that I think about it for small businesses is I think about it like a rocket is going, your personal brand should be the sort of side boosters that you use to get the business off the ground. But then once you get it launched out into space, then your personal brand falls off and the business can just sort of follow a trajectory and live on without you. But it takes a personal brand can help tremendously early on. So there's a bunch of data. If you go to freebrandstudy.com/Cody, freebrandstudy.com/Cody, we actually give the whole research study away.
That's cool. I want to say that
out. Yeah, it's powerful stuff.
I didn't start a personal brand to have business success. I think I just was curious about what's happening in the world and I wanted to write a newsletter and I like writing. And so that's sort of how it started. And I thought we weren't talking very much to each other. And this was in 2020. So I was like, here's a way that we can maybe start having some conversations. But now that I think about it, it's pretty pivotal to a lot of our portfolio companies. I don't think every human needs to have a personal brand, but I think there needs to be a brand that is associated with you, because in the age of AI and in the age of mass commoditization of content creation, you got to have something that feels human, to your point. And you got to have something that feels unique and high trust, because I think going forward, AI isn't going to make us have to do less work and for things to be easier. It's actually going to mean that everybody is able to be pretty good, and you're going to have to be great to stand out. And one of the ways that you do that is by being, weirdly, authentically you, and your brand can be that too. Like we have a portfolio company, Pinks, that's a window cleaning company, and they're two young guys who they're uniquely them. They're kind of hipsters, they're really faith-based, they're fun, they're energetic, and they attract all the rest of our franchise owners at Pinks are very similar to them. A lot of like ex-vets, they're like these like young, kind of clean-cut, wholesome, good-looking dudes. And they don't have a very big social following, but they have a pretty big social following for a cleaning company. And so if somebody wants to go start a window cleaning business and they want all the systems and processes, these guys have earned a lot of their trust. And so even for window cleaners, I think it's something relevant.
It absolutely is. So let's talk about trust on a data point really quick.
Ooh.
So one of the things that one of the questions we asked in this study is which piece of marketing collateral matters the most in influencing a purchasing decision.
Okay.
And we asked things like they have a large social media following, they have a large YouTube channel, they have a polished like a podcast. We said they have a blog, they have a nice website, they have a book, a best-selling book, a New York Times best-selling book, and we had people rank them, and none of those things were the top on the list. 62% of Americans say the single most important piece of marketing collateral that will influence their purchasing decision, testimonials from other customers.
Yeah, that tracks.
It costs nothing. You can have it by this afternoon. It costs nothing. What do they want? They want human validation. Yeah. They want a human that they can trust to say, if a human said it, then I can believe it. Not just it's pretty, not just there's lots of people saying this, but like show me an individual people and what they have to say about you. And I thought that was super powerful. The other top ones are that they've been featured in media and that they've been paid for their expertise.
Interesting. It actually tracks, because I was just talking to one of the members of one of our companies, and they have testimonials on the website, but they made a fatal error. And the error is, it says this nice testimonial, no picture, no name. Mm-hmm. That could be, that's almost as bad as not having testimonials on your website. And now there's a lot of ways you got to make sure compliantly you share them, which is a whole other issue. But we have a segment that we do for our build group that is all about exactly that. We think about them as reviews, because a lot of these are service businesses, but there's a lot of data that shows people won't buy from you if you have less than 3.5 stars, mm-hmm. which is crazy. And they will pay more money for you if you have more than 3.5 stars and more than 100 reviews. And so that's really interesting. Probably a great way to get more testimonials and reviews is basically being online and sharing other people's.
Yeah, it is. And there's online and there's online and offline too, right? I mean, if you look, I believe that the best form of marketing in the world is a changed life.
Yeah.
Right? You change someone's life, they'll tell people. You don't even have to ask them. You don't have to incentivize them. You don't have to send them a coupon. If you change someone's life, they'll tell people about you. Now, when you're cleaning, doing laundromat and you're washing windows, like, are we changing people's lives to the? Well, maybe there's ways that we can do that. But you got to have your customers. You should strive to be so good that your customer force becomes your sales force, right? It's one thing for me to go, hey, I know what I'm talking about. It's another when Codie Sanchez says, hey, Rory is someone that I've hired for time to time to help me. Like, that's freaking powerful, right?
Yeah.
Because you trust that there's that transfer of trust.
Yeah.
And it's human. And I think it's going to just continue to matter more. And I actually think video testimonials are going to matter a lot. I mean, you can already deep fake a video. So, even as that happens, you go, what matters the most? What matters the most is someone in real life coming up to you and saying, have you read that book?
Yep.
Have you been to that restaurant? Have you watched that movie? You need someone to clean your house? I have the person. You need someone to fix your car? Like, your HVAC broke? Like, I have the guy. Nothing will ever be more powerful than that. So yes, online, yes, social, yes, AI, but don't forget, at the end of the day, this is about reputation, and reputation is about trust, and these concepts are as old as time. So the medium is changing, but the foundation is the same.
Rory, you're the man. Follow Rory on all. Where do you like people to follow you the most?
Well, so the one place I would say, go to freebrandcall.com/Codie. So if you're serious about building this and you really want to be an expert entrepreneur, build your brand, request a call with us, freebrandcall.com/Codie. If you're not so serious about it, but you want the data, just go to freebrandstudy.com/Codie. And then we'll get connected from there.
I love it. Rory, I really appreciate you. You really did help me a lot. I'm not just saying that. So I can't wait for the next book so I could put you again through more text as opposed to voice note misery. And I hope you guys listening out there take this to heart. I think there needs to be more good humans who are willing to share their expertise and actually do the thing that most won't, which is teach and not just take. And so thanks, Rory. You're the man.
Thanks for having me.